Hello, I'm Naz Perez.
I'm Dr. Christian Gonzalez.
Okay, so my name's Naz. I am a TV host, entertainment journalist, also a film critic. I'm in the Critics' Choice Association. I worked for Fandango and Rotten Tomatoes for 6 years, and I've basically been covering film and television through interviewing casts of movies and TV shows for 6 to 7 years now. And so I love talking about shows after I see them and movies after I see them. And Christian is basically like my brother separated from birth, but I'll let you obviously introduce yourself.
Like a brother separated from birth, exactly. And I too share this deep love of cinema. It's so nostalgic for me to watch a movie or now watch a show since Netflix came out and really tune into what I'm seeing. Now, I watch it for art and color and writing, but lately, since I've been getting into all of this psychosomatic work, now I'm seeing how this writing is sort of mirroring these psychosomatic expressions. What is really happening behind the scenes when the characters aren't even talking? So that's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think we're so stoked to make this show because I'm pretty like conscious and I love talking about consciousness and like the human psyche. Typically in my interviews, I like to come up with questions from that like standpoint. But I always found that in Hollywood or like for companies that I would work for, they weren't really like interested in diving that deep into, you know, consciousness or spirituality or, you know, the places that I thought were like really interesting. And you have a really like famous podcast called Heal Thyself, where
we just interview people in health and wellness. But that's the thing. I can't really veer out into pop culture, into movies, into like talking about the things that really matter to me so much because movies and cinema have been so much a part of my life. So we thought it'd be a fantastic idea to sort of marry both of this so both of us can really start authentically just nurturing the parts of us that maybe your industry doesn't let come to the surface and mine doesn't. Right. So we wanted to create the most unique take on all of this stuff that's out there.
Right. And then I think if we end up calling it the download, to me, it has so many different meanings, right? Like you can download shows to watch on a plane, but also like channeling, right? Like getting a download from the universe. And so I am so stoked for this because I feel like I don't know of many podcasts or after shows or people that talk about Hollywood and consciousness together, aside from me on my Substack, nazperez.substack.com.
Go rehearse that too. No, you're right. And oftentimes I don't hear real life actors really blowing my mind with, I'm like, whoa, that person gets it. They're connected. And maybe they are, but they just don't bring it out to the surface because the field is not like that, the industry.
I can't even tell you, G, how many times. I think that's why a lot of the times my interviews, and if you watch them on YouTube, like people resonated with them so much. And to me, I was like, well, I'm just asking things from my point of view. And I would find that so many actors are artists like I am, and they're so in tune and they have like a process, but then yeah, you're right. It's like there's so many. I've found the industry to be highly unconscious. And I don't say that in like a hierarchical way where like I feel like I'm better or anything. It's this weird thing where I'm like, man, I've felt like there are a lot of people that just ask really surface level questions. How did you get into character? You know what I mean? Like, what was it like shooting in Thailand? And I don't know, there's just like so much more, especially with the show like White Lotus. That's why we picked this show. It's so exciting because nobody knows the human psyche and how to really make characters humans like Mike White does.
Yeah. And when I didn't really appreciate White Lotus from this lens until I prepared for this show. And I actually not only had so much more appreciation for the director and the way he perceived putting out these messages, these cues throughout. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's brilliant. And then I see the actors. Some of these actors are actually really channeling their characters so well that you see the expanse of like a lot of these human repressed emotions and expressions.
Right.
Already in the first episode.
Right. I love that you said that. And that's why I think I would feel like, you know, when a kid's like in timeout but wants to get out of the room.
Yeah.
That's how I would feel when I couldn't cover something that I felt like had so many amazing messages for the collective. Like, and the fact that I've never sat down with Mike White like breaks my heart, because you're right. Mike White is a genius. He is in tune. So Mike White is the creator, writer, and director of White Lotus, which is kind of like extremely rare in the industry for someone to have that much creative control. And I think that's what makes the White Lotus so good. But the thing that a lot of people don't know is that Mike White is the best at casting. He casts people in roles. He casts actors in roles that technically already have the essence of the character. And I'll tell you what I mean. So talk about spirituality and like all the woo-woo stuff that you and I are into. Yeah. So I'm really into the Enneagram. Have you and I talked about Enneagram?
Yeah, for sure. I've gotten mine checked out, and I think they mentioned it on the show.
They do. So how would you describe what the Enneagram is for someone listening that doesn't know?
The Enneagram, if I remember, I don't want to mix it up with manifesting generators.
No, that's human design. So
you answer a list of questions, right?
Yes, you answer a list of questions. The Enneagram is basically what your core motivations and desires are. And there's 9 different types, energy types. And you're one when you're born, and that never changes. So you guys can like take an Enneagram test online, obviously. I studied under Dr. Deborah Edgerton at Esalen about the Enneagram. And when I found out that I was a 4, which is the individualist, I was like, oh my God, I am exactly this. This is what I'm motivated by. These are what my desires are. And then, I started interviewing people like actors, and I would look up what their Enneagram is.
Yeah.
And I would base my questions off what their Enneagram is. And so why am I talking about Enneagram? Mike White knows about the Enneagram. So he knows about these sort of like 9 energy types that people are. And I think he really writes characters to that. So for example, I went to the White Lotus press conference because I'm an official critic. And Leslie Bibb, who plays Kate, the blonde with the short hair, Mike White told her, you need to take an Enneagram test. You're an 8. An 8 is the challenger. It's a very hard number one of our friends is an 8. And she was like, I'm not an 8. Kate's an 8. Like my character's an 8. And he's like, take this Enneagram test. She takes the Enneagram test and she's like, oh my God, I'm an 8. And he's like, yeah, you're an 834. She goes, oh my God, I'm an 834. Wow. So the reason why I think White Lotus is so good is he literally casts actors that have that sort of already core essence of the character that he's writing about, which is why Jennifer Coolidge in seasons 1 and 2, who played Tanya, like that character was her, just like a more sort of elevated, exaggerated version of it.
This is interesting to me because I wrote a lot about the casting in my notes as I was watching it. And I was so impressed by the casting, but from the lens of, wow, these characters are actually embodying really well these repressed emotions that I think are going to be coming out throughout the show, which we'll go into shortly. But like I was watching it and going, I wonder if haven't been watching all movies and shows with this lens, or if White Lotus is just that good at casting and acting and actually capturing the spirit before they cast it. And I guess the truth is that that's how it is.
Yeah.
This guy's a genius then.
He's a genius.
Okay. Yeah. I'm so excited then to talk about all of this. This is so exciting.
Into it.
Let's dive into it.
Okay. I just want to get a couple things sort of, I want to know first, you watched White Lotus season 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Did you like episode 1 of White Lotus?
I expected it to be the same way as like all of the episode ones are.
Right.
You know, there's something that happens and then it goes back to a few weeks or months earlier.
Right, like 1 week before.
Yeah, and then like it starts introducing the characters. It's sort of the series of events that we come to like love at this point, I think.
I think like when I saw episode 1, I was so excited. I think Mike White has such a pressure on him because the White Lotus ended up becoming this like Emmy-winning series. Yeah. And I was really disappointed in the opening song. I saw a meme that was like, where are the wee-woos? Like, ooh.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they changed it so much that I like miss the wee-woos.
Yeah, actually, so I saw a meme and there was this guy in front of a TV and he said, White Lotus season 1, and he was like kind of dancing. Season 2, he was going crazy. And then season 3, he turned off the TV. Yeah. I said, what the
just chilling.
I like the song though.
Yeah.
If you kind of tune into it, I like it. What I do like is that they're actually playing Khruangbin. They played a few of their music, but Khruangbin that's Thai funk rock. It's based from Thai funk rock, that sound.
And that's the name of a band for whoever's
Krongbin,
watching or listening.
Awesome music, yeah.
They're making money, a shit ton of money off the White Lotus, because they use their music a lot.
Almost in every episode. But the thing is about, I love that they stay true to that. And I love that they're playing Thai music.
Right.
But even some songs that I may recognize, but in just the essence of like the Thai energy, the language, it's so cool to hear. I feel like I'm in Thailand when it started.
Right. And I love that you said that, because it is more Zen, right? And when I went to the press conference, what I thought was really interesting that I didn't know about, that I thought you would think is interesting, is Natasha Rothwell, who's back. And by the way, guys, we're going to get into like all the characters in all of episode 1. I feel like we just have to lay down a lot of foundation. She said that when she went, first of all, I love that Mike White picked Thailand, because Thailand's a character he could have picked anywhere, right? So it was Maui was season 1, Sicily was season 2, which was like sex and crazy, right, in that disco. Thailand is a beautiful character to have on this season. And I've seen the first 6 episodes. There's a massive spiritual theme going on in the background, which is such a sick juxtaposition to like people who are on vacation, right? And the monkey within ourselves. Monkeys have always been a motif for Mike White, like the ooh, like it's very monkeyish, right? Since season 1. So now we're in Thailand, and Natasha Rothwell was saying at the press conference that she had never been in a country that hadn't been colonized before. And so she felt so at peace shooting the show there, because there isn't this sort of collective trauma that the country's going through. And have you been to Thailand? I used to produce The Bachelor, so I was there actually for a month filming, and it's very hard to shoot in Thailand. The humidity, think of all the cameras getting fogged up. Like, it's like not easy conditions. This was hands down the hardest season for Mike White to pull off. It's also longer. But isn't that interesting that she was saying it's never been colonized? And so there's this amazing juxtaposition of like sort of the white privilege, like character coming to vacation. And people who are just chaotic, and the bubbling of the emotions that we feel, that anxiety rising. And then that coupled with like these people who just live in Thailand and are so chill and are so spiritual and so in tune.
And these beautiful shots of like leaves with water droplets and monkeys and these sounds, like you hear like anxiety and tension building, but you hear like these bird sounds, monkey sounds. And it's kind of confusing because your nervous system is like at peace with the sounds in the background, the ambient sounds. But if you're tuning in, you're like, oh, I'm kind of getting anxious because this person is expressing like this person is expressing like this. So the juxtaposition is felt by us in our nervous systems as viewers.
Oh, I didn't really pick up on that until you said that, of like, because no one does anxiety better than the White Lotus. I mean, maybe the show The Bear, but like with the music, it's always like. But the last thing I wanted to say about Thailand, which I think is interesting, is there are certain places, and why Mike White picked it, is there are certain places like Ibiza, right, that have this insane duality of energy, where there's this party part of Ibiza, just like Thailand. There's this party part. There's people that go to Thailand to get lost, to just party all the time, to forget who they are. And then you have this other part of Thailand, this other part of Ibiza, where people are literally going to find meaning and to find themselves. So I think that is such a sick backdrop for like this show in particular.
Yeah. And I'm excited to go over all these episodes. So basically what we'll be doing is we're going episode by episode breakdown of your lens, my lens, so we can really watch this in a more comprehensive picture. And I love that we're doing this because we're not just doing it with like half and half. We're putting this all together so people can actually start watching maybe from our lens and even be more connected to these characters.
Yeah, because essentially, I think what he's really good at is like we're all these characters, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that?
Every single part of me was expressed by all of these characters.
Right.
In many ways, some characters represented like me in all of my 20s, So it's like, I'm like, holy moly, this is like really, and we're going to get into, this is really a accurate depiction of all of the parts of us as humans. And they're sort of exaggerated to a sense where we see that and we quickly want to hate on these characters without seeing that, hold on, that might be a part of you. You've gossiped like that. You've shown up like that.
Yeah.
So what an incredible stance that he's taken by putting the show together.
Yeah, like all our shadows.
All of our shadows.
Okay, cool. So I think before we get into all the characters, the last thing I want to say is, which, a lot of people, and being in the Critics' Choice Association, I kind of grapple with this because I don't even really like the word critic. I think the younger people are, and this may sound ageist, like most of us are more amplifiers of content. And I'm not even calling it content, but like shows and movies, because they're really hard to make. Mike White said at the press conference, this was the hardest he had ever done. He had locked picture, which means they had finished it 2 days before we heard him speak. And he was like, I was going through a lot myself personally. There's way more episodes. So season 1 was 6 episodes. Season 2 was 7 episodes. This season's 8 episodes. Yeah. He went from dealing with 10 cast members in 1 to I think 11 in season 2 to 14 cast members. That's like so much more writing. The episodes are longer. And so yeah, I'll say more because I've seen 6 episodes about what I think as we go on in our episodes, because I don't want to give too much away. But I think just knowing that in the background that he was going through a lot himself as he was making this is like important to know. Because I think a lot of people are like, this season's such a slow burn. It is a slow burn. It's a very slow burn up until episode 6. So yeah, but I think it's worth watching. It's still one of the best shows on TV.
100%. And we're giving them a new lens. So we're putting on these new glasses and maybe watch it with this new sense after we go down the rundown of these characters. So let's get to it.
So who are you most excited to talk about?
God, all of them have their own really
own
like,
thing.
Their own little thing. But we want to start with the Ratliff family.
They're so fucking good.
They're good.
Yeah, they're so good.
Patrick
tell me all your things and then we'll just go. We'll go on a Ratliff rant.
Like when you see Patrick Schwarzenegger, he's a Saxon.
Yeah.
And, from the get-go, you already like kind of triggered by him. Like, it's so funny that I believe he went to Duke or North Carolina, but the family is from North Carolina.
Well, both. So like Victoria Ratliff went to
North Carolina.
She's a Tar Heel. And then Timothy Ratliff he went to Duke. And it's funny because you could tell that there's sort of like that tension there because Lochlan, their youngest son, got into both and he has to decide which one to get into. Yeah.
And if you follow sports, that is like huge basketball rivalry. And the Tar Heels will always cite that people who go to Duke are really uppity and it's all like white privilege people. And so what Saxon embodies is just this immediate energy of like white privilege, polo shorts. He had the boat shoes. He had the sunglasses. And Patrick does such a fantastic job at embodying this posture. He's already posturing from the beginning. His spine is really straight. His shoulders are back. He's walking with his chest out. He has this confidence to him that is sort of like bred in that you would see by his dad going to Duke and having all of this privilege. And so immediately coming from not that, anyone who watches automatically dislikes him.
Yeah.
Oh, immediately.
Yeah. And he works for his dad.
He works for his dad. He has the most like crude comments. He's the typical, the writing is like typical douche guy who you're just like, oh my God, this guy's like just came out of a frat party.
Right. He kind of reminds me of in season 1, Jake Lacey's character. Do you remember that in season 1? He was so obsessed with getting the pineapple suite.
Oh,
like that
the guy in the beginning, and he had a polo too on most of the time.
And so, Mike White's so good at writing those characters. It's also funny that Saxon works for his dad, which is like, of course, he's also like a Nepo baby in that way.
Exactly.
One thing that I thought you would think is really cool as we dive into the Ratliffs is the first time we see the Ratliff siblings, Saxon's on the boat and he has glasses on.
Yeah.
And then Piper is in the middle, their sister, and she has headphones on. And then Lochlan is on this side and he's drinking a soda.
See no evil.
See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, which I thought was such a genius sort of way to tie in the monkeys into Thailand. Yeah.
Wow. And I wonder if that applies to all of the way that they're going to express throughout the show.
Yeah.
One thing that, and I love that because of monkeys, because you see the monkey statues doing that anytime you're on vacation.
Yeah.
One thing that really stuck out with Saxon was amongst all of this douchey behavior, he is very shameless in his sexual energy. He has no shame about saying like, well, where am I going to masturbate in front of his brother?
Right.
There's no shame in him speaking about his sexuality, which is in contrast to what many people, they're really, taboo and hidden behind their sexuality.
Well, his brother, right?
Well, his brother, exactly.
His brother Lochlan is like very
much so
repressed.
Yeah. So which actually brings, did you notice that weird moment when he went to go like masturbate? He was kind of like staring at his brother's naked butt.
Yeah. And so that's what I wanted to ask you about, because you'll see in season 2, so sort of more of that energy.
In the episode 2.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. You'll see in episode 2 sort of more of that energy. But yeah, I wanted to ask you, like, is that a healthy sort of way to express like your sexual urges? He kind of feels like the guy that's just willing to, like, it's a numbers game. He says that in episode 1 to his brother. Sure. He's like, it's a numbers game.
I don't think he has a healthy relationship with sex with women. I don't think he has a healthy relationship with like respecting women.
Right.
But one thing I was impressed of was his shamelessness about talking about masturbation and just going to get up to masturbate. Because you feel like there's a
lot of shame around that.
Of course, there's a lot of shame.
That's so true. I don't think about that because I'm not like a guy. For men, I guess, right?
For sure. And maybe between two brothers. And you would have to have a good relationship with your brother to be like, all right, I'm going to go masturbate in the bathroom.
Right.
But at least to him, he's very unapologetic about it. And it's actually something within all of the douchiness that I actually really appreciated about him.
Right.
Not to say that, he's, just looking for a woman to sleep with immediately.
But the thing that is, we got to dive deep more into Saxon, because Saxon's a really interesting character, and a lot goes down with this character as the episodes progress. Yeah. And the whole time I was thinking, because Patrick Schwarzenegger's father is Arnold Schwarzenegger, his mother is Maria Shriver. Yeah. I'm like, I can't wait for them. Someone asked him in the press conference, have you seen these episodes with your parents? He didn't tell them anything about the character.
Yeah.
So they have no idea what's coming down the line, which I think is really fun and juicy. But he calls his sister hot.
Yeah.
And so we're sort of Lochlan's looking at Saxon's butt in the morning. And then there was sort of this like tension of who Lochlan was going to sleep with.
Yeah, and from the beginning.
Yeah. And so I wanted your thoughts on dissecting Saxon more, because he says, she's like, why can't he sleep with me? And he says, because brothers and sisters don't sleep together when they have like full blown genitals or whatever.
Yeah, he did. And he did mention that. Lochlan seems to be like in the middle of both of them. And you saw that in the beginning when he's like, come to the pool. And she's like, well, I want to go to the Buddhist temple.
Right.
And it sort of lends into like this, and they casted him so well. He has like this really soft, boyish look. He's got these big eyes. It's sort of like he was casted as like unconfident, sort of coming into his own. And it reminds me of actually the one in season 2. There was a guy who was really soft. Who was that guy? And then he started
Aubrey Plaza's boyfriend.
His boyfriend. And then he started like kind of developing a little bit.
Yeah.
So I wonder if over the next episodes he'll sort of start developing into his own identity, but he feels identityless in the beginning.
Well, what's really interesting about what you said before that I didn't pick up on until you said it is you started talking about Saxon's posture. And then you have Lochlan, who they want to go get his posture fixed.
Yep, exactly.
Which such like a complete, I didn't pick up on that until you just said it.
And the dad's bringing that up because he wants him to go to Duke. And, Duke guys stand tall. We have our chest out. We have our shorts on. We have our boat shoes. We're proud people.
Yeah.
And if you notice, the younger brother, his posture, Lochlan, is sort of just more like kind of frumpy. He has that really big oversized shirt and he's walking around. He doesn't look put together. It doesn't feel like he has yet his own identity.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that's purposeful for what's going to happen throughout the episode.
Well, I love that you even brought up identity, because if you remember at the very end of episode 1, Piper's listening to a Buddhist in her headphones, and we hear this voiceover in this audio that says identity is a prison.
Yeah.
And so that is very much a theme, is what are the identities that we choose to stick by? And then whether you think you're a successful person from Duke, right? Or whatever it is you are, you're locked into whatever identity you believe. It's a prison, no matter if it's good or bad.
Yeah. And you see that expressed in both the family members, and dad and mom, and especially in the brother. But
what do you think about him saying his sister's hot?
It's like in the essence of him being douchey and unapologetic, and he doesn't care how people feel. He's just going to speak his mind.
Yeah.
And it kind of put a little exclamation mark over my head. I'm like, I gotta watch what this relationship is. What is this all about? The sister is really like, I sense like the actress who's doing this is really good. Who plays Piper? She's doing this like, I'm shy. I'm sort of like, I have this trepidation. I'm a little nervous. She has like this energy that's really introverted, maybe introspective. But what I did notice is that she gets triggered by her dad on the phone. And this really plays to the feminine wanting presence, especially from dad. And the relationship between the daughter and the dad is such a sacred one. And
right, that's so true.
The dad not able to show up in present. And I'm sure it's been like that for most of her life.
Right.
And you see her triggered in episode 1, dad. And he's like, where am I supposed to take the call? She's like, go outside. You know, like she's so mad about it.
I really related to Piper. Sarah Catherine Hook is the actress who plays her, because she plays the normal person. And when you have like a chaotic cast, you have to have a character that's like us at home, right? That's sort of normal and grounded. And I grew up kind of being like a black sheep in my family. And so also someone who's like into spirituality, you know, and they're here in Thailand because of this thesis that she has to write, but none of them really care. But she's like really interested and grounded, and she wants to like find out more about herself and go inward. And she's sort of surrounded or stuck in this family with people who like have no interest in doing that. And I think like a lot of people feel that way, especially people that like go inward, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's sort
You're
of
like, I wish my mom would go to Hoffman, you know?
Yeah. It's sort of like she's the spiritual black sheep of the family, unless we see a little bit more from Lochlan as it develops. But she's someone to keep an eye on, especially through the rest of this season. And then her role model for the feminine is her mom, who seems to be like disconnected, dissociated, detached in so many ways from like reality. So it's so interesting that this one wants to go inward and this one isn't anywhere in her body, her mother.
Yeah, dude. No, Piper is her father for sure. And Saxon is his mother. Victoria Ratliff, Parker Posey. Thank God for her, because I was like, how are they going to do the White Lotus without Jennifer Coolidge?
Yeah.
Like if you literally feel her absence, which is why we'll get to Belinda in a second. I like am obsessed with what Mike White did. He kind of kept Tanya, Jennifer Coolidge's character, alive this season in a way that we have to see how it all unravels. But yeah, like I specifically love, and you'll see this more as the episodes progress, like Victoria laughs at Saxon.
Yeah.
Like
I did see that.
like that is a mother-son dynamic. Yeah. And Parker Posey was saying, by the way, Parker Posey's not a mother, which I was shocked to hear, because I'm like, she nails this. Like I have met this woman at the airport, like who she's playing with her lorazepam and like, you know, just having that Southern sort of like, I don't know how to, that Southern shade, I guess I would call it. Like she's so good at that Southern shade. But yeah, she was saying that she decided to sort of laugh at Patrick's character Saxon because Saxon reminds Victoria of her grandfather. And she said that Lochlan represents Victoria's shadow of like her not really wanting to admit what's happening, which is she's this mother and all her kids are about to leave the nest. Yeah. And she's like, does not want that to happen, you know?
Yeah. And we notice that in the way that she's sort of dissociated. She's there with the family, but she's kind of not there.
Right.
She's sort of disconnected, but I love the way that you said that she highlights Saxon and sort of just brushes him off. She giggles, oh, Saxon, so right? Good. Well, even if he makes like the dirtiest joke. So yeah, I was really impressed by the family. And then the dad was really interesting to me, especially the way that he seems so uninterested in being here. He wants to just be in his work. And then this whole thing that's bubbling up, that's happening behind the scenes with his work. And is he in trouble? And I want to keep an eye on him as a character because I sense this like turmoil bubbling inside of him, and he's separating from his family slowly but surely due to what's arising in the background.
The best thing, so Jason Isaacs plays Timothy Ratliff. You guys may have seen him in like Harry Potter. I love him in the OA. Yeah, I think he's like such an underrated actor. Yeah, and I'm so happy they cast him in this. That's what Mike White's really good at, is he doesn't pick like these huge A-listers, but he picks incredible actors that like almost haven't been given like lead characters. And then
Parker Posey, I haven't seen her since the 90s.
right. But she is just like, oh, she's so good as Victoria. But yeah, so Timothy, what's really fun about Timothy Ratliff and Rick, who we'll get to, the other guy who's kind of balding, dating the younger girl.
Mm-hmm.
They are both ticking time bombs.
Yes, you can feel it.
And they are so good because you feel like how calm some people are on vacation and how like, like I feel like this when I watch Timothy Ratliff, Jason Isaac's character.
Yes.
It's so good. And it's such a slow, solid burn.
Yeah. And when he takes the phone call outside and then he sees Rick and he's just like, fuck off. He's just so like, oh, like, you know, there's an explosion happening while on contrast, his wife, there's no care in the world, right? She's just like, so just like in the air. She's very airy. And you sense this guy, he's really fiery and there's fire coming up.
Well, what's interesting about their dynamic, and maybe it's just because I've seen more episodes, but Victoria has the privilege to not care because she's not paying for the family. Do you know what I mean? Like she's not paying for the family. You know what I mean when I say that? Like she's not sustaining this family financially. So she's like, what's wrong? You know, like da-da-da. And he has 3 kids. They clearly have so much money. He like randomly picked this hotel. He didn't even know that it was like a wellness place. And that they just ended up, remember he calls it a road trip.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, we just wanted a road trip. What? And he's like, what are you writing again? Like he doesn't even know.
He's just getting away.
He's a provider.
Yeah.
He's there to provide. And so I think there's a lot of pressure on men to provide in like family dynamics like that.
Yeah.
You know,
he is the pivotal dad who's just obsessed with work, making money, and then like is plucked away from this thing that he identifies so strongly with, and then bringing him to a vacation.
Right.
One, it's hard for him to turn off, but there was a really special moment between him and his wife when his wife says, everyone tells me what a great man you are. And then he sort of stares off into the distance and takes a deep breath. And then in that moment, I was like, that man's holding something in.
Yeah.
There's something happening. And we see it kind of bubbling up with the storyline.
Yeah.
So
because the Wall Street Journal keeps calling.
Yeah.
And he's like, what does it matter? You know?
What does it matter?
Yeah. I think I like what you said when she said you're such a great man, because I think there are a lot of men, dads, that put their value in being able to provide for their family. Like my father lost his job in the recession. And like, I love my dad so much. And he's the greatest dad in the world, hands down. And there's something about like his spirit that I think was just sort of tarnished when he wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, I think I wish that money and like financially providing for a family wasn't so tied to men's sense of worthiness.
Yeah. And in many ways, on the other side, it's innate in us to take care of our loved ones.
Right.
So it's really a big blow when we can't do that. Ironically, my gut tells me in this episode between him and his daughter, she doesn't care about all that. In many ways, she just wants his presence.
That's all women want.
All women want is presence, and all men think they have to do is work hard to provide and not pay attention to that.
And all men, no, I would never say all men. A lot of men think, if I don't have money, I'm not going to be able to get a girlfriend.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a common narrative.
Yeah.
And really what women want is just a guy that's going to be present. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Of course, there's a lot of women that want to end up with a successful man, financially successful, just in confidence. But it's not, I don't know.
Well, side note, before we get into Rick and Chelsea, there was a big survey that was done, and what hobbies men have that are most attractive, and actually reading was the most attractive hobby that a man can embody for a woman.
Whoa, that is hot. I didn't even know. I thought that was hot.
It's hot, yeah.
Second. And I don't even read.
And what does reading require? Presence. So I think it's an indirect, subtle cue that women already want and know that they want that in a man. So whatever man can do to be more present, and I really hope that sort of the dad starts creating more presence with his daughter in the midst of what's going on to really build their relationship.
Yeah, that's definitely not happening in 1 week.
Okay.
I think what's really funny is that when Patrick Schwarzenegger was at the press conference, shared that he was sort of doing different things towards the final episodes.
Yeah.
And Mike White was like, yo, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he's like, well, I want my character to sort of have this arc, you know?
To evolve.
And Mike goes, it's 1 week. He goes, people don't change in a week.
That's true.
And Patrick had to really be like maybe some people change in a week.
Yeah.
Right. But the people don't change in a week. And so that's what's, I think, really fun about the White Lotus. It's this escapism where we just get to see chaotic people.
Yeah.
And then there's this thing too about we're all animals, we're all monkeys, but no one talks about this, like this energy of who we are here at home. And then as soon as you land somewhere else, it's almost like there's this veil that goes away and there's like no rules, and your vacation self can be very separate than your at home corporate LinkedIn work self. Do you know what I mean? And it's a very interesting thing that you feel as soon as you land back in the town you're from on a plane. It's like this sobering feeling of like, okay, I'm back in this identity. Don't you find that to be true? I always found that, especially going on cruises as a kid. I was like, oh, I can't wait to like make out with a boy and like have this like lover on a cruise I'll never see again. It's like you become this weird, different version of yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And you get there and you just sort of want to party, want to drink, want to just experience everything, or the darker parts of you start coming up, which brings up Rick and Chelsea. This is like a very interesting dynamic.
Good. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, and I guess
talk about a man not being present.
Man not being present from the beginning. I mean, he's about to fight Saxon on the boat, right? So like this guy's like already like what's going on with this guy?
Right.
You see this deep like pain. He has an angry demeanor. He's rude to Chelsea. He's rude to the staff. There's something going on in this guy, and you notice he's sort of, his posture in contrast to Saxon is very different. He's heavy. His sad. He's sad. When he sat down on the chair outside, he was slumping. His energy withdrawn. He's drinking heavily, so it's sort of like that weighing down. He's carrying baggage. Whereas you see a Saxon, it looks like it's hard for things to like get to him because he's so like in his like douchey frat boy era that he has this huge ego. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Whereas this guy, Rick, there's something troubling with him. There's something happening. There's something that is not said in episode 1 that he's carrying heavily.
And no one's broken, right? But like he's carrying this aura of like someone who's been broken down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's masking a pain. And I wrote that in my notes. He's masking some sort of pain.
Yeah. I am so obsessed with the dynamic between Rick and Chelsea. I love Chelsea. I think she's such a fun character. She represents so much of me that would only date the emotionally unavailable person. That girl that thinks that she can save the guy.
Yeah.
Like we're soulmates. I'm good for you, And what was so wild, I told you, Mike White cast people in like similar in the essence that they are at the press conference, her and Walton Goggins. And Walton's such a daddy, like his voice is so, he plays Rick so well. They sat down and she was like, Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon. And I was like, oh my God, they actually are these characters.
Yeah.
And they said that before they went to film, they didn't even really do anything for chemistry. It felt like a past lives thing. Like they just had this amazing chemistry. And they just like went to his terrace at the hotel that they stayed at for filming and just vibed and listened to music. And like, they really just dropped in immediately. Like, and they have this just beautiful dynamic of like, it feels like there really is love there. But then there's times where he's like mean to her, right?
He's very
like,
mean. He's
like,
rude.
Shut up, this. But then there's moments where he's like kind of, I don't know if we see it in episode 1, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
And so you see why Chelsea like loves him and she thinks like they're fated. But what, and the girl, the girl that loves astrology and all the things.
Yeah, and all the things.
She represents me in so many ways.
It's so true. She's younger.
Right.
And she has this energy of like sort of partying, but also like he's an older, grouchy guy, but like maybe I'll break him open.
Right.
And in episode 1, you see him pretty closed. and for all intents and purposes, he's closed, he's
Right.
rude, not only to her, but to the staff.
Right.
But she says two really important lines that really stuck with me, and I wonder how it's going to play out in the rest of the season. You need to sort your shit out. You got issues, when she set him up for the meditation. So, okay, obviously we know he has issues, but then she goes, this is so on brand for you to be a victim of your own decisions.
That is such a good line. That I love Mike White's writing.
Yeah.
That's all of us.
Yeah. All of us are a victim of our own decisions.
Victim of our own decisions. And the mystery, and when she's like such a Scorpio, you know, it's like he carries this massive mystery. And then I noticed there's sort of disconnection because she doesn't even know why they're in Thailand.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how are you a couple and you just got to Thailand and you're like, wait, why did we come here? And they travel all the time. He barely works.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're going to be really fun to watch. I'd love to move to Natasha Rothwell's character.
Okay.
Wait, did you have more to say
Belinda?
about Rick?
No, that's Belinda. Yeah.
Okay,
let's talk about
Belinda.
her.
So Belinda's the first character we see on the boat after the 1 week later. A lot of fans were really excited that she was back because they felt like her character really got slighted in season 1 when, remember, Tanya, Jennifer Coolidge's character is like, I'm going to give you the money to open it.
I was rooting for her and then she just bounced.
We were all rooting for her. And I think what's so beautiful is that when Mike White was working on season 2, he called up Natasha Rothwell and he's like, I think I want to bring Belinda back. And they also really love working with each other.
Yeah.
And what I think is really beautiful about Belinda being back is Natasha Rothwell is an insane actress. She does drama, comedy. She has amazing comedic timing. And she shared at the press conference, she's like, what I love about working with Mike White is Mike knows he's not a Black woman. And she's also a writer. So she was writing a lot of things into this character. She's developing it more, fleshing it out. I love when I love a character on season 1 and now I'm like, oh, I get to find out more about them and their life. And now I'm seeing Belinda not at work, but it seems like she's at the White Lotus to learn their sort of modalities to bring it back to the White Lotus Maui. And I asked her at the press conference, I said, you know, there's this moment in episode 1 where Belinda sees other Black guests at the hotel, who, by the way, I believe one of the people that played one of the Black guests was on Survivor. And Mike White was on Survivor.
Okay.
Did you know
I
that?
didn't know that. I didn't know that.
So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, someone else is back too, which is the husband of Tanya, who we see, who's now dating this model. John Grease is the actor's name, I believe. He plays Greg, the other white bald guy. I love that Chloe, his model girlfriend who meets Chelsea at the bar, says they call them LBHs. The locals call them LBHs.
No life.
Losers back home.
Oh, losers back home. Yeah.
Back home.
Yeah.
And man, Thailand's a place where people go to hide. And I just can't wait to see how this unravels. I mean, I know some of it, obviously, but I can't wait to watch the last 2 episodes because the fact that Mike White brought him back is amazing.
Yeah. And I was wondering, once I saw his face, I go, no way. And I was watching with my partner. I was like, because she doesn't remember. She didn't really she wasn't into all of part 1. She was just bits and pieces.
Long time ago.
I'm like, oh my God, do you remember? She said, I don't remember. I go, no, I don't know why he's here. Why is he here? So it's going to be really interesting to see. But to talk to Belinda, you know, she gave me such hoping to get this business running in part 1 and get this funding, but she was a pushover in many ways. That she was just, Jennifer Coolidge was like, I'll get this to you. She's like, oh, okay. And her voice was being repressed. So I'm really excited to see her maybe come more into her power in this episode.
Right.
I was trying to get my grasp on why she's there, but now I'm starting to understand why she is.
Right.
So those two old school characters, seeing their familiar faces was kind of exciting.
So good. A part of me is if Star Wars brought Palpatine back and Marvel brought Robert Downey Jr. back, I'm like, is there a chance?
Is there someone going to catch Jennifer Coolidge
alive in some way?
With Team Jennifer Coolidge
come back? She comes back. Can you imagine? And then obviously it was very clear to me. I don't know if it was to people watching that the episode opens with a kid named Zion who said he grew up in Hawaii. And then she's later talking to her son, and I'm like, that's her son.
Didn't even connect 2 and 2 for
you didn't
a long time.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah, because there's the opening shootout scene.
That's great. That was a crazy, I think, because, I think the pressure Mike White has is always to outdo himself.
Yeah.
Which is such an insane pressure.
Yeah.
The way I'm thinking about it is having been a producer on The Bachelor, I'm like, a way to outdo this season compared to 1 and 2 is multiple people die, maybe.
Yeah, it might be.
And there's a lot of people saying like even Chelsea says to Rick, I don't know if it's in this episode or episode 2. I'm sorry if it is, but like, she's just like, episode 2's out, so I can say it, but she's like, I would kill for you or something. Like there's a lot. And then even Pam, who is the butler for the Ratliff family, Saxon picks off this fruit and she's like, that's a poisonous, the pom-pom tree. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm like, he is setting up so many ways that people are going to die. Yeah. And then obviously Rick is like a motive. Like he's there for a reason. There's and it has to do with the owner. Yeah. What'd you think about the manager this time around? I think he's so funny.
The manager. Oh, he's like, okay. Fabian, so if you look at him, he has this nervous energy. Yeah. Right. He's got like this like overwhelmed nervous energy, and he's with the owner who's super like sassy.
She's
and
such
like,
an Aries.
Like so like embodied in the sense of like, this is who I am. Right. I loved her big sass, you know? It was really cool to see that. Let's go into the 3 best friends.
They're my favorite, by the way. Aside from Victoria Ratliff, who's the most fun to watch. Yeah. The 3 women are my favorite dynamic on the show, but I want to hear from you.
Oh, yeah. This is, if they don't represent so many conversations I've overheard women having about each other behind each other's backs, but in a cringe but passive aggressive, but I love her way, backhanded compliments. I don't know that's the best embodiment I've seen of that.
How good. He's so good at nuance, the subtleties. Good. Okay. So I have so much to say about this. And I really geeked out on these 3 women. 1, they're 3 blondes. 2, they're sort of middle-aged. I don't know if I want to say middle-aged because I'm turning 35 in a couple, but like they're older. Yeah. They've been friends forever. Jacqueline's a famous actress, played by Michelle. Kate now lives in Austin, played by Leslie Bibb. And then Lori lives in New York, played by Carrie Coon. And they've been friends since they were kids, but they like barely see each other anymore. So they've changed. Why are they my favorite? I was literally working with my coach, my Jedi, you know, like life coach mentorship, like we have. And I really hate the energy of 3s. I hate that dynamic for the exact pitfalls that play out on this show. And I'm someone who's like really comfortable in a big group of people. But if I'm not in a big group of friends, I want to hang out with friends one-on-one. I'm just like a one-on-one person. When it's 3 people, I found it really hard to navigate, or I've worked through it. My coach told me, and this is why I think Mike White is so genius, and I wanted to ask this question at the press conference, but I wasn't able to, is my coach was like, Naz, 3 is a very spiritual number. Yeah. And she's like, you know, you have mind, body, spirit, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. And
past, present, future.
Past, present, future. And so I was like, wow. And I really came to love the energy of 3s. But yeah, there's certain things, and I wrote down what they say in what did they say? Or maybe I did it for episode 2. Let me see. Yeah, I think, they get into it more in episode 2. But there's a moment where Jacqueline says to Lori, are you okay? Your room's over there. You're kind of tucked away back there. And immediately there's like so many, especially with women, like feeling sort of like left out.
Yes.
And the 2 are left talking, and then we see Lori go and just start crying.
She breaks down and cries.
And you could tell she feels like not sort of part of the group. But then there's other instances where you'll see when you're in a group of 3, it's like 2 people are close, and then maybe these 2 people are close, and then maybe these 2. It's almost like there's always an outsider.
It has to be by virtue of just the numbers game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But what I love, this is now the most fascinating to me is Lori. And this is where I think about, did they cast this like this, or is she such a great actress that she's embodying this resentment? Because if you look at Lori, I'm looking at her face, she looks tired. She kind of looks worn down. If you notice, she's the only one with bags under her eyes.
Right.
Is that makeup? Is it really the actress, Carrie Coon? But like, you notice that she's not as glowing as Leslie Bibb and Michelle.
Yeah. Well, she hasn't gotten work done.
She hasn't gotten work
How
done,
much
right?
did your butt cheeks clench when Michelle and Kate were like, or Jacqueline and Kate were like, "You look so great. No, you look so great. No, you who's
What do you
your
do?
witch?" Yeah. She's just, oh wait, you look good too. Like, it's so good.
If you notice on episode 1, Lori is sort of the only one you see drinking, even though everyone's pouring drinks.
Right.
She's the only one you see wine really hitting her lips and she's drinking.
Yeah.
So you sort of see this like sadness. Now, when I tune into her psychoanalytically, I see this sadness, shame, definitely this anger. If there's an explosion and something goes wrong, I might think that she is the number one suspect right now.
Interesting.
There's a resentment. There's signs of passive aggressiveness towards Jacqueline multiple times. There's undertones of bitterness. You see these visible stress markers. There's even these nuanced tightnesses in her facial expressions when she smiles, where it looks like she's not fully smiling with like joy, but like just smiling because she kind of needs to smile to be there.
Right.
And I don't know if that's brilliant acting or the actress herself has her own stuff in her life.
Yeah.
And she's just casted because of that stuff. And there's someone that could see that nuance.
Right.
But she's the most, at least, I think, emotionally repressed character aside from the couple. What's his name?
Well, Rick and Chelsea.
Rick.
Yeah,
Rick is actually my favorite character.
Is he?
Yeah. Because
Why?
I want to get into an episode 2.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about that episode.
But I'm very intrigued by Lori. And then Katie, first of all, Leslie Bibb was a Maxim magazine when I was young. She was like a crush of mine.
Wow.
I haven't seen her since the 90s, so she's back.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's like popular girl energy.
Right.
It's like, I married a rich husband.
And I live in Texas now.
I live in Texas
he's
now.
He's so genius at
you know,
casting.
she's like,
yeah. She said, she was like, I'm Kate, Michelle is Jacqueline, and Carrie is Lori.
Exactly.
It's wild.
So she's really intriguing. I didn't get much from her in episode 1, and I couldn't tune in as much to Jacqueline, other than, you know, she's the star of the group, and and I was just tuning into her. She doesn't seem as passive aggressive, bitchy as Kate. I don't know, maybe yet.
Right.
But I think there's a little more sweetness to her, but let's see.
Yeah.
But the 3 together is like crazy.
It is. Their dynamic's interesting because I feel like when I've been around friends that I've been friends with for a long time that I'm not really friends with anymore, I feel that energy of like, oh, Naz is Hollywood now. You know, there's like this subtle, like, you know, do you know what I'm trying to say? I don't even know how to put words to it.
Yeah. And it's like,
I'm so happy for you. But then there's like, I don't know.
Well, maybe it's a jealousy. Maybe it's like, oh, she's not the same. Maybe it's like, she's not as humble as everyone in town is.
Right. It's like that. Yeah.
You can sense that there's a little bit, and we'll see more in the next episode. Yeah.
We have to talk about one of my other favorite characters, and that's an English actor named Tame, who plays Gaitok. Mook is so hot, by the way.
Mook is the Bella the Thailand ball.
So hot.
Every guy wants her.
I thought that you would find this interesting. Tame, the actor, at the press conference was saying that he had to really learn the diet because he's English. Yeah. So he grew, he was born to parents that were from Thailand, but he, I think, was born in London. But he said he had to learn remember the specific dialect of the people on the island. He was a private bodyguard for rapper Way.
No way.
Isn't that sick?
He was? Yeah. He doesn't even seem that big though.
I know. And then I think it's so cute and cool because he kind of, again, Mike White casting. Oh my God, now all this stuff's coming to me. Where he's sort of in this bodyguard role, right? He's security.
Yeah, he's security.
Which I think, I'm like, Mike White, you were such a genius. Another thing I remembered is Sarah Catherine Hook, Piper in the Ratliff family, is the middle sister for 2 brothers.
For 2 brothers, yeah.
She is an older brother and a younger brother in real life.
Oh, really?
Yes. He's impeccable.
He's impeccable
with casting.
To go back to Gaitok.
Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Gaitok. Looking at him, there's just like this endearing quality where
he's so endearing. I've never seen a more endearing character in my life.
Right. He's got like these,
want to hug him.
But you see that psychosomatically is oftentimes, and this is just as a side note, expressed in people who weren't nurtured enough when they were little.
Really?
So phenotypically, oftentimes that's expressed in the face of like big eyes, like a soft smile, gentle face. Anytime that you have the impulse to want to hug someone, it may be because they were neglected as children.
Whoa.
So literally their face expresses, just like a flower attracts, their face expresses to have people come and love them. Isn't that interesting?
That's fascinating. I never knew that.
So maybe that clues us into that actor's past, how he grew up.
Wow.
But more importantly, at least in the context of this episode, don't you root for him? He has this gentle face. He's in love with Mook, and you're just like, I want him to win.
Right.
And sort of, this is what Mike has over all of us. He has this guy dangling in front of him, and like, God forbid something happens to him, he can break our heart immediately because we have already initially rooting for him from the beginning.
Within a first episode.
Yeah.
And like the way he, what was I going to say? I think I wrote it down. Hold on. Let's see. No, I didn't. Yeah. I don't know. Is it in this episode where he asks Mook to lunch, right? In the first episode?
Yeah.
And they have lunch.
Well, not I think later.
Oh, that's episode 2.
Yeah. But you could tell he has a crush on her.
Okay, sorry. I was struggling to like say it because I wasn't sure what episode it was. It is so cute. You can tell he has such a crush on her, but you can also tell, this is also a really fun dynamic, that she is so friend zoned him.
How true is that?
That has happened to every single person.
And she kind of like was talking to the bodyguards. He had tattoos on his head and neck, like going for the bad boy, the emotionally unavailable. It's like the dynamic that's being portrayed so real that I'm sure with so many people have been like, oh man, I've been friend zoned in my life, or I've had someone who I was attracted to just like go for this guy instead.
I think what we'll see too, like very Robert Greene, Art of Seduction, is, you know how you said she was with the bodyguards?
Yeah.
When you like someone and they've friend zoned you, but you know what they like, it's typical that we try to become what they like in order to then be liked.
Yes.
So you'll see how that plays out as episodes to come. But
beautiful.
Great first episode.
Amazing.
I mean, some people thought it was sleepy. I love it. I think you and I love it because we just love the human psyche.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, this season is a slow burn, but I think if you guys stick with it, up until episode 6, a lot of the things that you and I talk about are paid off.
Yeah. And if you haven't yet, and take these notes, apply that, and just look at these characters with these new lights that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then it sort of adds so much more depth to what you're watching. And maybe ask yourself, can I relate to this character? Or which character triggers me the most? And maybe that person who's triggering you might have a sense of something that inside of you that needs some deep healing. So let us see. All right, as we go to episode 2, that's it for episode 1 on the download.
The download. And also we haven't decided what day we're going to drop these. This one obviously dropped Wednesday. We're going to drop episode 2 soon since the first 2 episodes are out.
Yeah, we're going to batch it quick.
And then we'll let you guys know what day we decide to drop.
Yeah, we want to make it quick
after
for
1
you.
and 2. Yeah,
we want to make it quick for everyone.
But let us know in the comments what you think, what like shadows you see in each character that you feel like you might have, which character you're most excited about.
Who's your favorite one?
And also if you like the song, and what do you think? How do you think the first episode compares to the first episode of the last 2 seasons?
Yeah. Drop in the comments. We love to hear from you. Goodbye.
Bye. I love you.